What's the best lens choice for studio portraits? Let's find out. Hello, my name's James. I'm a portrait photographer from Portsmouth in the UK, and I welcome you to this, my studio, and the latest video on this No Fuss Muss YouTube channel. What lenses to use for your portrait sessions, a beginner's guide. That's the theme of this video today. We're going to take you through the pros and cons of using a wide angle lens, a standard lens, and more of a telephoto lens as well, just for single person portraits, so that you can make an informed choice if you're looking to make that commitment and buy either your next lens or your first lens. Say hello to Ethan, everybody. Here he is. He's in the studio looking cool with his Maverick style sunglasses, named after the lead character in not Top Gun, in Mission Impossible. That's what we've just learned today. We've set up very simple lighting for this headshot to keep things nice and easy so that we can focus on the pros and cons of different lenses and not so much on the lighting today. But I'm just going to take you through it. We've erected an Elinchrom 3. Come and have a look at the Elinchrom 3 up there. Up on the C-stand, the Elinchrom 3, a completely wireless unit, C-port chargeable, so there's no leads, and it's got loads of battery life there so that we can continue to take lots of portraits throughout a single session. And we've put it on my big Octabox, giving us a wide spill of light throughout the shoot. Because it's quite a big Octabox, I've put it on my C-stand. My C-stand's my more sturdy tripod, so it's got a little bit more sturdiness to it, and it's less likely to fall over through the shoot. I'm going to say that without squeaking. So there's less of a safety risk in the shoot and gives me confidence as I'm shooting. And we're going to move this in here so it's fairly close to our to Ethan, to our subject here, and we're going to control the light a little bit. All of the light coming out from one side of the portrait here. The reason why we've set the light over onto this right-hand side is so we have a nice clean channel here through to where we are shooting. Because the light's all coming through this side, we're just going to set up a reflector on this side of the portrait here, one of my whiteboards, which I'm just going to bring in here to bounce a little bit of light back into the portrait there, and it's given us a nice clean. We've measured out this light so that we are shooting at ISO 100, 1/160th of a second, and f8, giving us a nice depth of field in the portrait. And the first thing we're going to try and do is we're going to try and take a wide angle portrait and look at some of the things that happen when we use the wide angle lens. I've got my Canon R6 here with a 24-105. Now, I would say that anything under 35mm is wide angle. So your standard sort of wide angle portrait will fall anywhere from 10mm at super almost fisheye wide angle, all the way up to 35mm. On my lens here are a series of numbers so that I can track exactly where I am on my focal length as I zoom in and zoom out. So I'm going to go to the widest point there, all the way up to 24, and try and take a wide angle portrait of Ethan here. What I'll notice is when I take my first picture here, and if we lean in just slightly towards me on the knee here for me, just like that, on the other knee, bring it over to the other side, that's it, perfect, just like that. If we take our first portrait from where I would normally be here, 3, 2, 1, go, we will see up on the screen here that although we are exposing correctly within the portrait, we are getting all of the background of the studio, the light stand, the softbox, the table, the bottle of water on the floor, the marketing material in the background, all of those things are coming through. The wide angle is taking on a field of vision that is wider than our eye naturally sees. Everything on the edge of that frame will be slightly distorted, and that can be exemplified if we go a little closer. This is one of the mistakes that new people coming into photography will make, because they'll often have a wide angle lens that will encompass all of the things in the background. And because we're so obsessed at looking at the thing or the person that we're photographing in the picture, that's all we can see when we see the portrait. We miss all of the things in the background that are actually acting as distractions. In order for me to eliminate all of these distractions that are happening in this first frame here, I'm going to need to physically move myself closer to Ethan to fill that frame with nothing but white background. And what that's going to do to the face is going to have an interesting effect on some of the facial features. Let's have a look. So we're going to come in nice and close. leaning in towards this knee here for me. I've got myself super close to this light here, so my shoulder's almost on this light, but I'm not actually blocking any of the light off, so the exposure should be the same. Although I'm closer, we haven't moved or changed any of the lighting settings, so we don't need to change any of the settings in the camera. He's going to lean in towards me a little closer here for me and just tilt the head slightly to the side here for me. 3, 2, 1, go. Drop your chin down just a little bit there for me. 3, 2, 1, go. Lift the head up just a little bit and lean the head this way for me. 3, 2, 1, go. Hold that there. 3, 2, 1, and go. There. And what we'll see there is we'll see distortion within certain elements of the picture. It pinches when it's on a wide angle lens in the middle of the lens, and then towards the edges of the lens, elements within that picture accentuate and stretch, and in this instance, the arms, the hands, the top of the head, and all those sorts of things. If we take it to a real extreme level and move in super close on this wide angle, and just try and get into the face here for me, nice and close, 3, 2, 1, go. Perfect. We'll see there that there's a real almost fisheye element to the picture, where the nose now is even coming out of the middle of the lens as well and distorting everything around. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't be using wide angle for your portraits. You absolutely can do if you want to accentuate features, or you want to create styles or tell stories within your portraits that lean into that slightly distorted nature. But if you want to take an image that looks like the face that we would see in real life, then you need to start working with focal lengths that are a little bit longer. And that's where we can start to move up towards our second focal length, which is 50mm. Now 50mm is the focal length that's favoured by historic photographers like Henri Cartier-Bresson. A lot of people say that he made that choice deliberately because he wanted to replicate what the eye saw, and it was the most natural way that he could shoot, when in reality it was actually the cheapest, most affordable lens. And because he didn't come from wealth, it was the only lens that he could afford. But it still doesn't take away from the fact that 50mm represents what the eye can see. It replicates exactly our field of vision as humans. So when we dial this number 50 into the focal length on our camera here, and we go to take a portrait, if we go back as close as we were on the wide angle lens and try and get a similar style portrait, we'll see that immediately the head fills the frame, the background is filled, we've got nothing but grey backdrop, but there's less distortion than there was on the wide angle portrait where all of the features are pinched. This is exactly the face that I would see if I was looking at Ethan from that distance, okay? Which is kind of like a cool thing. A lot of people's entry-level lenses will be the 50mm because it is the most affordable. And I quite like shooting with a 50mm prime on occasion. Prime lens meaning that there's no zoom feature in your lens. It's literally set at just 50mm and that's all you can take. What that means is that you have to move your body and move your position to fill the frame yourself. And I've got a video up here where I take a 50mm at a big event in London and try and experiment with that and shoot that, and you can check that out now. Lastly, what we can do is that we can really zoom in. And for this, we're gonna take the lens off of here and we're gonna change to a whole new lens. This is the 70-200. So we're going way above 50mm now, and we're gonna show you the compression that happens when you shoot at a higher focal length. In this shot, Ethan's just going to come across, he's just going to lean into the table that I've put to the side there for me. Real simple. Bring the hand down away from the face. That's it, just like that. That's perfect. Giving him something to lean on, giving him something to do there. He's going to turn his head slightly towards the light here for me, and he's going to drop his chin down. And you can see that from all the way back here, look at the distance difference from where I was with the 50mm filling the frame to now I'm here. And I'm still filling the frame. Turn the head towards me a little bit more. Chin down just a fraction there for me. Now bring the hand up into the head there for me, just like that. 3, 2, and 1. And I've had to come back a little bit on those last two there to really fill the frame in with those. So we can see from this shot that we're filling the frame with the same area of face with that massive distance. It means that sometimes with these longer focal lengths, you're actually, because you're giving your model space, it can sometimes work in your favor to allow them to do the things that come naturally. And if you come in nice and close with a wider angle lens, sometimes there's a benefit of that because you get a little bit more intimacy, a little bit more connection between you as the photographer and the model and their personality coming through the lens. In this instance, what we're going to do is we're going to keep it on 200mm. We're going to see how close we can get. Hand there for me, that's perfect. Chin down just a fraction there for me. Turn the head towards me very slightly. 3, 2, 1. And look at this one from an area of symmetry. And from getting impact into the frame looking straight towards us. Now I'm going to try and get the top of the head in. Try and make it a full lean in towards me, lean towards me, really get close. That's it, perfect. Chin down just a fraction there for me. Now bring the hand up to the sunglasses there for me on the side as if you're about to take them off. Put them down there for me, drop them down 3. That's lovely. 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. And just by bringing that hand into the portrait, now we have something just a little bit different. And the other benefit of shooting at these higher focal lengths is we can start to crop in camera, we can start to create shapes, create forms, we can start to move our light a little bit and create a little bit of atmosphere and something a little bit different. By moving our light round here away, we know that we're going to get less light shooting onto the backdrop. And that means that the backdrop is now going to go darker, it's going to go moodier. We're going to get you to lean against the table here, and you're going to turn your head so you're looking off camera to roughly around about here. And I'm going to see how that change in light is affecting not only the light on the portrait, but potentially the reflection in the glasses, and also the overall mood of the portrait there. I'm going to have a look at him here, chin down just a fraction. And there we have something that's a little different. Turn the head away from me even more there for me, proper profile. Now back towards me with the head just a little bit there for me, as if you're looking across this way. Head up just a little bit. And now by looking at the modeling light in my flash, head up just a little bit more there for me. I can see where the reflection is landing in those glasses. And I can potentially, by cropping in nice and close, with my longer focal length, create a more abstract shot and something with a bit more mood. Bring the hand up to the glasses now there for me if we can. And look at me, just look at me here. I want you just to pinch them like this with the fingers up just like you had before, and I still want you to look off camera over there. 3, 2, and 1, there. Hand down and away now for me if we can. 3, turn the head away from me slightly. Still looking at those reflections. 2, and I've come back a little bit myself physically. Turn the head away from me a little bit more there. Head up just a little bit. 3, 2, and 1. There. And there we have a series of pictures utilizing that longer focal length where we've got compression within the shot and we've got something that looks stylish and something that looks a little bit more high-end, just with that slightly longer focal length. If we were to try and replicate that now, that exact same lighting setup with the wider angle, we'd get a completely different look and feel to the picture. I'm just going to go from one extreme to the other. So that last shot there was taken on a 200. Now let's see how it differs when we shoot all the way up on a 24 here. Same pose again there for me. There, 3, 2, and 1. Look at that. Now we've really made a big thing of those sunglasses. Because of the way that the lens distorts, it's pinching that area in the middle of the frame to make it slightly more bulbous, like a fisheye, which means that area in the middle, which in this instance is the sunglasses, is now the feature of the shot. It's now something that your eye goes to straight away. And it's something that helps define the storytelling aspect of that portrait. In the previous shot, it was a stylish headshot of a guy wearing sunglasses. In this one, it's more of a shot of some stylish sunglasses on the front of a guy's face. And that's how we can use focal lengths and lens choices to make informed decisions in studio as to what we want our portraits to look like. I don't really believe in rules in photography or right and wrong in photography. I believe in cause and effect. I believe in we made this change and it had this effect and made this difference. And whether you like it or not is really entirely up to you. The choices that you make as a photographer are yours. And whether you like them, and whether they were done with intent or whether they were done by accident, none of that really matters. All that matters is that you made the choice, and it's up to you whether you like it, and whether it's what you wanted to do, and whether you want to celebrate that by sharing it with other people online. So in summary, there's a range of lenses that you can use for portrait photography, and each of one of them is going to have a different cause and effect. You need to choose the one that's right for you. If we're on a budget, we want to be looking at investing in a nice prime 50mm lens and get used to working with that and working with people. If you struggle with choice and you can't decide what to do, then you're going to be looking at getting some sort of zoom lens. I use my 24-105, it gives me the full focal range from 24 wide angle all the way up to more telephoto 105 and through the 50mm bit in the middle as well. And if you want to go for those high-end headshots that they take for sort of all of the high-end actors and actresses and singers and all those things that you see on Broadway and West End, then you maybe want to be looking at a telephoto lens, something above 70mm. But the key thing is to find the right lens for you. Find the right lens choice for you. And then once you've found that, experiment with it, work out what works for you and with your clients and the people that you're shooting. And also don't be afraid to change, don't be afraid to adapt, and don't be afraid to get completely hung up on the lens. Most of the greatest portraits taken in the world, and certainly some of the better portraits in my studio, relied on connection, relied on storytelling, and relied on personality. And that only comes from working with your clients before you even bring a lens up to your face. Thank you very much to Ethan. Give Ethan a round of applause. He's giving himself a round of applause there. You can like and subscribe, you can say nice things, you can ask questions in the comments below. You can check out some of the other videos on our YouTube channel, and you can download our 100 ways to pose a model guide from novice.com. It's completely for free. And if you want something that isn't for free, you can download our 1 light, our 2 light, and our 3 light workshop. All of this was videoed on a wide angle lens, so you can see my fingers nice up and close. And we will show you how to light a face in 10 different ways using just 1 light, just 2 lights, and then just 3 lights. Really simple guide in this style as well. Download that, get the course, improve the photography, say nice things, and as ever, all the very best.